Now that we can trust the shape of what comes out, we need to make sure the agent actually uses the right tools the right way. This module moves from output contracts to input contracts, designing tools that the model can reason about. You'll learn to size a tool for a single clear job, write descriptions that guide model behavior, and return error flags the model can act on. We'll also cut a tool set down to exactly what the agent needs, so it stops guessing and starts doing. By the end of this module, you can choose the right size for a tool, write a description that changes model behavior, return isError and retryable flags the model can act on, and cut a tool set back to what the agent needs. Here is how this module builds up. Granularity is the size of your tools. It is a trade-off between ambiguity per tool and decision complexity across the set. A tool that is too big tries to do multiple unrelated things, and its description becomes blurred, so the model cannot reliably pick the right behavior. A tool that is too small forces the agent to choose from too many options, and selection reliability degrades. So granularity is not just about splitting, it is about finding the right size. The distinction someone could get wrong is thinking that smaller is always better. It is not. The right size depends on whether the failure is ambiguity within a tool or complexity across the set. This prevents two production failures. The first is a tool that performs badly at everything because it is used for unrelated purposes. Imagine a customer-facing agent where analyze documents sometimes extracts data, sometimes summarizes, and sometimes verifies claims. Because the tool's description is blurred, the model often picks the wrong mode, and the output is wrong. That costs trust and requires human intervention. The second failure is an agent with so many tools that it cannot decide which one to use. You see this in systems where every little function becomes a tool, and the agent starts hallucinating tool calls or picking suboptimal ones. Both failures cost reliability. Granularity is how you prevent them. Let us work through the analyze document case. You have one tool with a mode parameter that does three unrelated things: extract data points, summarize content, and verify a claim against a source. The call is to split it into three tools. You create extract data points with inputs doc and output structured data, and a boundary statement saying use this when you need structured data from a document, not a summary or verification. You do the same for summarize content and verify claim against source. Now, why does a mode enum parameter not solve this? Because it keeps all three behaviors inside one tool description. The model still has to choose a mode, and the description is still blurred. The alternative loses because it does not remove the selection ambiguity. But then you must check the other side. If you keep splitting, you might end up with 18 tools where 4 or 5 would do. At that point, decision complexity dominates, and you consolidate. The rest of the cases are on the page. The durable rule is this: split when the failure is ambiguity within a tool, one tool doing unrelated jobs with a blurred description. Consolidate when the failure is decision complexity across the set, too many tools degrading selection reliability. And never use a mode parameter as a substitute for splitting. The reason is not just that it is a bad practice, it is that a mode parameter hides multiple tools inside one description, so the selection ambiguity you were trying to remove is still there. The model now has to pick a mode instead of a tool, from one blurred description. That is the reason it loses. This rule holds whether you are designing tools for Claude today or any agent next year. How this is tested: the exam will give you a scenario with a tool failure and ask for the fix. The discriminator is whether the failure is ambiguity within a tool or decision complexity across the set. If it is ambiguity, the correct answer is to split. If it is complexity, the correct answer is to consolidate. The distractor that catches people is adding a mode parameter. It looks like you are organizing the tool, but you are really just hiding the same ambiguity inside a parameter. The exam will test that distinction explicitly. This part is testcraft: know the two failure modes and the trap answer. A tool description is the primary mechanism the model uses to select tools. It's not just a label, it's the instruction that tells the model what the tool takes, what it returns, and crucially, when to use it. The boundary sentence is what makes similar tools distinguishable. Without it, get customer and lookup order look identical to the model. This is not about documenting the tool for a human, it's about giving the model enough signal to route correctly on the first try. When descriptions are minimal, the model can't tell tools apart. In production, that means a customer asking check my order number 12345 gets their account details instead of their order status. That breaks trust and creates support tickets. The failure is silent, the model confidently calls the wrong tool. Fixing it with few-shot examples adds tokens to every request, and a routing layer adds engineering overhead, but neither addresses why the model made the wrong choice. The description is the cheapest, highest leverage fix, and skipping it means you're building complexity on top of a broken foundation. Take the case from the drill: get customer and lookup order. Rewrite get customer to say takes a customer ID, returns name and account details. Use for account queries, not orders. Rewrite lookup order to say takes an order ID, returns status and items. Use for order queries, not account details. The boundary sentence is what prevents check my order from hitting the customer tool. Now rank the alternatives. Few-shot routing examples lose because they add tokens on every request without fixing the cause. You're paying for the model to keep making the same mistake. A keyword routing layer loses because it bypasses the language understanding you're paying for and is over-engineered for a description problem. Merging the tools is a legitimate choice but far more work than a first step warrants. The rest of the cases are on the page. The durable rule is, when tools are misrouting, fix the description first. Always include a boundary sentence that states when to use this tool instead of a similar one. Reject few-shot examples for routing problems because they add tokens on every request without fixing the cause. You're masking the problem, not solving it. Reject a routing layer because it bypasses the language understanding you're paying for and is over-engineered. The description is where the cause lives, and it's the cheapest, highest leverage fix you have. On the exam, you'll see a scenario with two similar tools and a misrouting log. The distractor is building a routing layer. It sounds technical and proactive, but it's over-engineered for a problem the description caused. The correct answer is to rewrite the descriptions with boundary sentences and reject other fixes as a first step. This is testcraft. They want to see that you reach for the cheapest, highest leverage fix before adding complexity. Structured errors mean returning an isError flag in metadata the model can act on, rather than a bare string. The distinction someone could get wrong is thinking any error response is good enough. It is not. The agent needs to know the category, transient, validation, business, or permission, and whether a retry might work. Without that structure, every failure looks the same, and the agent is forced to guess. In production, without structured errors, the agent makes blind recovery guesses. The commonest guess is an unproductive retry. It will hammer a service that is down, or retry a validation failure with the same bad input. Even worse, if you report an empty result as an error, the coordinator cannot tell nothing matched from we could not look, so it might retry a search that worked fine, wasting resources and delaying the real answer. And business errors without a customer-friendly explanation leave the user confused. The cost is wasted compute, slower responses, and a brittle system that breaks under load. Let's work the refund case. The refund exceeds the policy limit, that is a business error. You set isRetryable to false because no amount of retrying will change the policy. You also include a customer-friendly explanation: refund exceeds the $500 policy limit. The agent can then relay that to the user and offer escalation. The alternative would be to return a generic failure. If you did, the agent might retry, wasting time, or surface a raw error that confuses the user. The other cases follow the same pattern: transient gets a retry, validation asks for corrected input, and the empty result is success, not an error. The rest are on the page. The durable rule is this: every tool response must carry an isRetryable flag and enough metadata for the agent to decide what to do next. Reject the temptation to use one generic error shape for every failure. It removes recovery options and forces the agent to guess. Instead, categorize the failure and let the agent branch on that category. And never report an empty result as an error. That distinction between nothing matched and we could not look is critical in any system where a coordinator is making decisions. It is true outside any exam and will save you from brittle production failures. On the exam, the main distractor is the generic failure response. You will see a scenario where a tool returns a uniform operation failed for every error, and the question will ask why the agent cannot recover. The answer is that it has no category and no retryable flag, so every recovery decision is a guess. Another trap is reporting an empty result as an error. The exam tests whether you know that is a named anti-pattern. And watch for responses that omit the isRetryable flag entirely. This is testcraft. They want to see that you would never ship a tool without it. Capability bloat is when an agent holds more tools than it needs for its role. It is not about whether the tools are well designed. Even a set of perfectly built tools causes problems if the agent has too many. The distinction people get wrong is thinking that if a tool might be useful someday, it should be included. That is how bloat starts. Without cutting back, 2 failures happen in production. First, selection reliability drops because the model has to choose from a larger set, and every extra tool adds noise to that decision. Second, agents start using tools outside their specialization. A synthesis agent that can search will search, even when that is not its job. That breaks the separation of concerns the whole multi-agent topology was built to enforce, and you end up with a system where every agent does a little of everything, and none do their actual job well. Take the synthesis agent that round-trips through the coordinator for fact checks. 85% of those checks are trivial lookups, only 15% need real investigation. The fix is a scoped verify fact tool that handles the trivial 85%. Complex verification still routes through the coordinator. The alternative, giving the synthesis agent the full search toolset, would remove the round trip, but it loses because the synthesizer would start doing research, which is the failure mode the topology existed to prevent. The other cases in the document follow the same pattern: scope to the role, add narrow tools for high-frequency needs, and audit what is actually used. The durable rule is, scope each agent to its role, then add narrow cross-role tools only for genuinely high-frequency needs. Never open the whole tool set just because it would work. When you reject the full access option, you are rejecting it because it breaks separation of concerns. The agent starts doing work it was not designed for, and that undermines the whole architecture. Run an audit per role, which tools were actually called, and what the unused ones cost in selection reliability and attack surface. On the exam, the classic distractor is solving a latency problem by widening access. It looks tempting because it removes the round trip, but it reintroduces the specialization problem. The exam scores the version that keeps both properties, low latency for the common case through a narrow tool, and separation of concerns by routing complex work through the coordinator. This is testcraft. When you see a latency complaint, check whether the proposed fix breaks the architecture. Let's lock in the key points. Split tools that force the model to choose between unrelated actions. Write descriptions that steer the model away from common wrong paths. Return isError and retryable flags so the agent can recover correctly. And remove tools the agent never needs to reduce its decision space.